Here on the West Coast, I've just cooked myself a very simple dinner, and I know many of you will join me. Some of you will join me, some won't. And tonight's show story will be called "Who Killed San Francisco?" I should say, "How did San Francisco die?" Or was there a who? Are you there? Because I'll take your comments as they come. I'm pretty sure we're live. I'm drinking my wine. Drinking more wine now. What's triggered this tonight is the fact that I'm watching Bullet with Steve McQueen from 1968 while cooking my simple dinner in my simple abode. And I'm thinking about when I first moved to San Francisco in 74 and how it's changed and what happened to this place. And who did it? Who destroyed the city? Who actually killed it? Was there a who? Was there a what? Was there a how? And can you hear me now? I suppose you can. I know Restream says it's live on Twitter and YouTube. Live comments from X are here. I don't see any live comments. It's okay. I'll keep going. I assume you're there. And I'll do my thing. You do your thing, right? So here we are. Who Killed San Francisco is the title of tonight's show. I'm going to go on Twitter and see if it's actually live. I don't see it. What the hell's going on here? Here it is, the Savage Rap. They're calling it the Savage Rap, but it's Who Killed San Francisco. I see you here now. Oh, should I put some more lighting on? I love doing a one-man show. The beauty of doing a one-man show is I don't have to look at anyone and see how I'm doing. I just look within and ask how I'm doing. So let me begin where I begin. Let me do this. First of all, I want to thank you very much for indulging me in your listenership all these years, number one, and for being so loyal to me all these years since 1994. But it goes back before then. Many of you don't know, I was a health book writer before that, and I wrote books on nutrition, homeopathy, herbal medicine, and they were very popular going all the way back to 1972 before I became deeply political. So tonight I was cooking my little dinner, lonesome dinner, and I'm watching Bullet, and it reminds me of when I moved here to San Francisco. I love this city more than any place on earth. I'd been to Paris, Rome, London. I've been to Tokyo, whatever, lived islands in Fiji, Tonga, Samoa. And I love this city. Every time I came here, I loved it. There was something about it that was so beautiful, so unique. It was the beauty, the charm. How do you put your finger on charm? How do you define it? A city built by various ethnic groups. You want to get racial? Let's get racial. It was largely the district I liked the most was the Italianesque or the Italianate district of North Beach, built by the Italian immigrants. Let me turn that off. I have to turn that off. It's distracting me, Bullet. Who didn't love Steve McQueen's green Mustang? And yes, I've sold my Hellcat years ago. After I had my medical incident in 2019, I sold it. I don't have any hot cars right now. I do have a Corvette, but I don't want to talk about cars. I want to talk about who killed San Francisco, if you don't mind. Well, let me begin by saying this. I'm originally from New York, as you might figure out by now. And I wrote a piece called Leaving New York back in 1988. It's a full unpublished novella, novel, screenplay. It will never be produced. The drug addicts and degenerates of Hollywood will never, ever touch it. Who cares? What would be? Let me ask you the difference. Let's say I had a call from the Samuel Goldwyn of today, who might be, I don't know who it is, and says, oh, Jesus, we heard about this. We want to do the movie. Well, I don't care. Let's say my neighbor Coppola heard of neighbor up there in Napa. Are you kidding? The left-wing Coppola? Marty Scorsese wants to direct And everybody that's in all of our movies wants to be in your movie, Michael, because you're amazing. We've been watching you for years, but we never could say it to you because you are exactly you say what we think, Michael. We want to do this movie called Leaving New York. Who Killed San Francisco? Yeah, right. And how would it change my life? I ask myself. The answer is it wouldn't. At a certain point, right? So who killed San Francisco? It was a bad time in Manhattan. Predictions of ecological and social disaster were being talked about and taken seriously. Wiser, older sages of the inner space revolution advised their younger friends to get out of the city before it all came down, man. Emigrations to the Catskills, Woodstock, San Francisco, and Marin, Taos, and other evolving New Age meccas often began over a joint in the Lower East Side. Remember when this happened? Remember who you're talking to here. With love beads, long hair, patchouli oil, and miles of hope. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers emigrated, repeating, albeit within a nation, a movement familiar to their near ancestors, I wrote. Leaving behind their more stable or stuck relations or friends, an entire generation responded to chords plucked in Asia and resonated in San Francisco. Alan Watts, Timothy Leary, Gary Snyder, Allen Ginsberg, Joan Baez, and other so-called talents made the leaving irresistible to those who heard their calls while giving those who stayed a music to dream on. If you were 22 years old in 1967 and just finishing college and too afraid to pick up and go to San Francisco with a flower in your hair, you at least could dream you might drop it all one day and drive like a crazed Kerouacian character across Route 66 in a, quote, fag Plymouth if need be, or hitch or even fly youth fair. The trick was to avoid the Vietnam War if you were a man or a corporate or medical husband, or if a woman. With some unemployment benefits transferred, you could be sure to survive in Frisco for at least 26 weeks, after which time you'd get a few VD shots and return to your green carpeted childhood bedroom in one of the boroughs. It's not that San Francisco offered so much. It's what you got to leave behind: a rigid gray life, cancer, or an early heart attack. Your friends looked older than you, those who stayed behind. Making money was paramount to them. A fluid life of meaning, your key to the future. If nuclear war came, you'd certainly fry in Manhattan, but on the sacred Indian hills of Western America, you'd have a chance. Besides, out west, the girls smiled more, and all seemed to dream of or live somewhere out of New York. Let me tell you about some of those children who made it out of New York in the late 60s. Their story is typical and important. Typical because they left on the same premises as the others and were later stranded on the same dead-end shams. Important because they are real and still together. Important, too, because they saw another America then and worked for it and lost it and still hold on to it a tiny bit, like you might have done with a special childhood quilt. And then I tell the story of Martin and Mary in my fiction, Leaving New York. Not yet published. I'm going to burn this manuscript. This is one of the few manuscripts I've not submitted to the library that has collected all of my writings. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Savage. I'm a very famous American author. I've written 30 books, several novels, and all of my writings have been collected by one of the greatest research libraries in America, who have collect the great writers of Western America. They have the largest collection of Mark Twain papers, and I'm so happy and proud that they selected me to be amongst those papers. And tonight I'm watching Bullitt on television, and I started to think about the San Francisco that I came here for, the little grocery stores on Taylor Street. I couldn't believe those scenes up there on Russian Hill in Steve McQueen's Bullitt. I couldn't believe the city, how beautiful it was. I haven't been there in almost a year. I don't even go over the bridge. The vermin, the vermin, the vermin. I feel like Brando, in that movie. The horror, the horror, the horror. The vermin, the vermin, the vermin. Look what Nancy Pelosi did to this city. I think I'm going to stop right here. They destroyed the city. It was Feinstein, Pelosi, and Boxer. They had the power to save this city, but they destroyed this city. You may say, how? How could they destroy this city? Well, many years ago, there was a young man who had been screwed over by affirmative action, and his birthright was destroyed in order to permit incompetent minorities and others to take positions they were not qualified for. And he got so pissed off he went into radio, and he created a whole world called the Savage Nation. It became a phenomenon. It spoke for the city. Again, I'm reading from a manuscript that I will soon burn. In fact, what I'm going to do is burn all of the manuscripts I did not donate to the library. I will do it live on YouTube and Twitter. It's a shame in a way, all these pages and all these other pages lost to the world forever. And I want you to feel what's going to be lost, just as I've been lost to the world because of this country. This country took an immigrant son and tried to kill him every step of the way. And they put vermin and garbage in his place, where now you'll have blind pilots flying airplanes. And if you say anything like, wait a minute, we can't get on that airline jet and we can't see that guy flying the plane with a seeing eye dog, you'll be arrested for violating his civil rights. I didn't do it. You did it. Actually, who did it? Who killed San Francisco? Was it something that would have happened anyway without Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Gagme Boxer, and Dianne Feinstein with the Chinese driver? I've never seen corruption like this nakedly in front of your eyes. Naked corruption. Insider trading, making millions of dollars on insider trades and calling Trump the evil one. Boxer with the land deals with her husband and children. Boxer, the good Jewish girl from Brooklyn. You want me to get started? I just got started. So I'll read the next part, page 4. Decades of faces ran through his mind. It may be ugly. It may get ugly. I'm warning you. It may get ugly. I have to change the Savage Rap Part 2 to Who Killed San Francisco Part 2. It may get ugly. See, I'm reading. Isn't that wonderful? I can watch myself read to you. It's unbelievable. I like technology for as long as Mark Zuckerberg in his bunker permits me to do it. Martin sat in his hillside studio and gazed at the slow gliding hawks. Over 20 years since the Be and Again Film Festival that he ran on the East Side, his quick buck scheme had not produced the multimillionaire aesthete he had once dreamed of becoming. The house he lived in he tended to detest. It was on a sharply sloped Marin County hillside that lost all sunlight in the winter. Being of wood shingle construction, it never afforded him that sense of security he had as a boy in his father's attached brick house in Queens. But worst of all, he truly hated the townspeople. They were not the laissez-faire, rugged individuals they liked to believe they were in Marin County. Most were slothful, uneducated dolts who confused apathy for democracy. Mean-faced to a man, the town lacked a sense of humanity. Maybe it was the 3 bars that dominated the main street, or the town's history as a bar town, or the fact that the ubiquitous Italian underworld had once used the town as a staging area for alcohol shipments from Canada, or floated on the coast, some say Bolinas, and carried over the hill to Fairfax by mules. And that the descendants of these modern Caesars now ran amphetamines and coke empires there. But it might have been that he stood out in this town, looking like an Arab without a headdress to these simple Western blobs who were so anti-Semitic that they did not recognize this in themselves. They did not know what a Semite was. That he missed his own people, that dark, brooding intelligence from the steppes of the East, was no mystery to him. He had often discussed it Often disgusted. Yeah, often disgusted. Often disgusted. He agreed that living away from that town would be good for them and for their children. But they had once moved back to New York a few years before, only to return in semi shock. In New York, the people were keener of eye, sharper of purpose, and driven, but to which ends? Money, money, money. His Jews were no better by and large, a bit worse on that score. He ran from it yet a second time as though pursued. And now they were back planning their next Hegira, somewhere where intelligent people with a vision of America still smiled at families when they passed them on the streets. The nation had become undone by the criminals from Italy, he often thought, remembering back to his father's world where the street bosses were all Italian, colorful, some of them even appealing in their rustic masculinity, but lacking compassion for their victims, for the earth, which they poison with their toxic chemicals, even lacking it for the Holy of Holies, the church. So who did that leave? Martin seemed to hate the world. Everyone was either too evil or too stupid. Was this the product of an enlightened mind, he wondered, to sit on your hillside hating everyone? But in fact, he did have friends. He did meet professionals at scientific conferences who he admired. No, Martin was not yet ruined by life, just temporarily sidetracked. If he was going to get out of there to someplace safe, where the America he had dreamed about existed, he would have to cease his illegal activities and begin all over again. And I'll pause right there with part two of Who Killed San Francisco by Michael Savage. And thank you for listening, and that'll be it for tonight. Now it's time to say goodnight. If I had, I look at these TV shows, I see hundreds of names of production elements. I can't believe it, how many people it takes to produce a show. And here I am doing a one-man show. I would like to have the lighting girl, the lighting guy, the makeup person, the music person, the graphics person. I'd like to interject stock photos of this era, but it's all coming out of here to you there. And again, I want to thank you for your loyal listenership. I have to make a confession right now. I'm very close to leaving you for good. I don't mean in the physical form, but I think I'm going to retire from the political video, audio world for good very soon. I think it's futile and pointless and a complete waste of the last breaths that I may have. This can't be the country that my ancestors killed themselves to get to have such a corrupt situation that the king has no brain. I'll stop right there again. Thank you for listening. I got to find the stop button here somewhere. I don't know how this thing is different. There's some kind of stop. Here it is, live, and then you go to stop. Honestly, this is a different system, and it's very hard for me to work different than YouTube. YouTube is much easier. I don't even know where the hell it is. I swear. Oh, end stream. End stream is like midstream in a doctor's office. Okay, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you for listening to part two of Who Killed San Francisco. At the end of the day, I think the answer is we all killed San Francisco.